who were you? Who are you
Yeah.
now? And like, who do you see yourself becoming? Like, what do you see on your horizon?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I
Mm-hmm.
was a lawyer in entertainment and tech for the better part of 7 years, mostly negotiating software deals as well as entertainment contracts when I worked in entertainment. So sponsorships and things of the like. I hated it. And my immigrant parents, my family's from Jamaica, they did not like that I hated it. I didn't tell them for a long time,
Yeah.
for what
Did
it's
you work at
worth.
Bad Boy or were you interning at Bad Boy
I
at
did
first?
my first legal internship, which was
Yeah, okay, which
interesting.
is so dope. Right. That is so cool.
That's
Yeah.
an interesting first legal internship. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of things, and also the legal team was small at that time, so I got a lot of experience in terms of like actually drafting things. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that
Okay.
was an interesting experience, to put it
Right.
kindly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I transitioned because then I thought, like, you know what? I've been doing diversity, equity, inclusion work in tech for free for like five,
Mm.
6 years, because before 2020, tech companies were very stingy and they act like they didn't have the money to build out proper DEI programs. So when I originally left practicing law, I was like, okay, you know, what would happen if a company actually had the money to put behind a real DEI program, and somebody who's, you know, likes to ruffle feathers and is about it. Like,
Yeah.
would it change anything? It
Yeah.
didn't. It didn't go well. On my end, to be honest. And simultaneously, I was building out Wine and Chill, which Wine and Chill started just primarily as a YouTube channel where I drink wine and then discuss legal and pop culture topics. So we
Mm-hmm.
went through like Kanye's contracts when he tweeted that out. So I have a contract background, transactional background, etc. And so when I left EI, when I got pushed from that nest, I was like, you know what? I wanted to do content creation full time anyway. That's what was my plan. So you know what? This is a
Yeah.
great time. So it's been like a year and a half of full time content creation now.
Yeah. And that's another thing that like I love about you and your work is the way that you intersect law and media. And now I'm learning DEI, which is crazy. And I feel like all my life I've always felt kind of like stifled because I'm so interested in so many things. I love mental health. I was actually pre-med to be a
Hmm.
psychiatrist. Me and my friend did a talk show, loved doing that. And I was like, I want to talk about psychology. I want to talk about wellness and people's mental health and just their journeys, but I want to do it through a different lens than like
Hmm.
going and being like someone's psychiatrist and giving them drugs. Like I don't want to do it like in that way. So how have you been able to, I guess, push through that? Because I know people always want to just kind of like pigeonhole people into just one thing, like, oh, you're just a lawyer, you're just this, and people kind of get confused and kind of look at you sideways as if you're not skilled in anything if you kind of
Hmm.
are like interested and skilled in so many different things or like have that natural talent in things, you know? So that's honestly my struggle right now.
Same struggle.
Yeah, yeah.
Same struggle. On my end, so YouTube, which is like really interesting. I've gotten a lot of opportunities with them. So if you
Mhm.
ever go like to a YouTube corporate event, and I've gone to YouTube HQ, they're very big on you niching down your content. And they have the statistics to
Mm.
show if you niche down your content, and if I only did legal content, the channel would grow faster. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to like talk about pop culture sometimes. And also I'm paying off my student loans. So I want to talk about, I have a student loan series that's run for 3 years. All
Mhm.
these things. And one of the things that I was hesitant about when I started doing like a little bit of pop culture commentary is I'm a huge history nerd. And so I wanted to ideally blend pop culture and history.
Mhm.
And in talking about that, I was like, oh, are people going to watch this if they're like, where's the legal content? Like, where's the lawsuit? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? And I was like, I'm just going to
Because
put
you have
it out
people with like
there.
short attention spans and they just want to get like they just want to hear that one quote or one line they can run to Twitter. But then you have the people who actually do want to hear
Mhm.
all of the deets and all of the facts.
I was surprised by that. So then I started doing live streams on
Mm.
YouTube, which that was a lot more, I would say, less nerve wracking, ironically, and actually like
Okay.
maybe a little bit more low maintenance because there's no editing. So my thought process was, okay, I'm gonna try all these random things I want to do, and if it sucks, I will just remove the video. It's fine.
Okay.
Who's gonna know? And to
Right.
this day, I think I've only removed one. And that's just because the algorithm was like, girl, no, and I put it on Patreon. But for the most
Okay.
part, I just leave them there. And that's kind of been rewarding because those are like hour-long live streams where I'm like, I can do a full deep dive into something and do whatever I want without having to
Mhm.
feel like, oh my God, I paid my editor, I did this, and the video tanked. So I'm like,
Right.
oh, and people surprisingly watch them, which
Right.
I'm always surprised by. So I think most people have so many more interests than just one specific thing. And despite what better judgment might tell you about you can niche down and go farther faster, my thing is more so like, what's the long-term play. Like if I only
Right.
do legal content, I'll be very miserable. That's why I'm not a lawyer
Mhm.
anymore. That's why I don't
Yeah.
practice.
Right. So in a sense, in a sense of YouTube and content creation, you say to just continue to do what you like to do and see what sticks and see what doesn't. So if
Yeah.
we zoom out and think of it in a sense of our everyday life and with our family members and with there are people who might judge you for thinking outside of the box, like what advice do you have to people who have the same feelings that we do? For me, it was wanting to make a certain amount of money and like wanting to like I guess kind of get there fast, and it wasn't even for me, it was for my family, it was for the people watching me, because like I making a certain amount of money that makes sense for me, but it's like everyone's like, well, you've gone to school for this long, you've done this, it's like, why aren't you at this level? But it's like, yeah, it's like I'm doing it in my own way, but I kind of will find myself falling back into roles or falling back into these different jobs and places just to align with what other people see for me. How have you been able to like push through that? Because you literally were like, actually, I don't like law. And what's crazy is you still are, everything that you learned while you were working as a lawyer, you literally are using it now. Like every
Yeah.
piece like is in the puzzle still.
Yeah, the transferable skills are interesting. So my dad is a truck driver and he forced retirement now. Unfortunately, got into an accident, so he
Okay.
can't work
Oh.
anymore. Which
Mhm.
added a layer of like financial, like, oh my God, I have to help and I've quit being a lawyer. What's happened? But before that happened, my biggest fear was me telling my dad, who worked so hard to even give me the opportunity to even apply to law school, to be like,
Yeah.
yo, that cushy job in that corner office. First of all, they're never
Right.
giving me the corner office. Second of all, they're mean to me.
Yeah.
Third of all, I hate this. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell, like, who am I to my
Yeah.
dad who's doing manual labor that? Like, that's crazy.
Right.
So
No,
I
I
didn't say
think about it all the
anything.
time. Yeah. You just think about like their sacrifices,
So much
especially
sacrifice.
especially being like a like first generation, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like they came here for you to do this. And I think I heard you say on a YouTube video that you're also the firstborn, which is a whole
Yeah,
nother,
of
which is
7.
which is I'm a middle child, but my brother is the firstborn, and I just feel for him all the time. I'm like, I'm so
It's
sorry.
rough.
I'm so
Pray for the
sorry. But
firstborns in your life. We're
right,
not okay.
right.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
finally fessed up when I told, like, I just couldn't take it. I was so miserable. And I think, honestly, I channeled that misery into being like, oh my God, I love YouTube. This is something fun. And that's why I used to put out, like, so many, like, videos, and I would be joking and laughing and doing stuff. Cause I'm like, oh, this is my hobby. Like, I'm having fun. And when I finally admitted it to my dad, he was shocked, but he was like, oh, I knew that. And I was like, well, why? Why didn't you say anything? He was like,
Right,
because there are worse things in life. And I was like, okay, but I'm unhappy. And I was like, well,
right.
as long as I pay my bills, like, what does it matter? And he was like, what does it matter? And I was like, are you agreeing? He's like, I didn't say I agreed,
But
but, and I think that kind of, I was like, you know what? He's no, for what it's worth, I'm paying my bills. So why do I care if everyone else cares? So I did a video when I quit I made at the height of my legal career, which I think it's always helpful to anchor things in the amounts because people are too hush hush about money. And it
yeah.
keeps people
Hmm.
in a sense where they don't negotiate for themselves. So the height of my legal career in tech, I made $165,000 base salary, which was cute.
Hmm.
And I was
Hmm.
paying off my
Super
six-figure
cute.
student loans. So when I quit, people literally in the comments like, "How are you gonna pay off these student loans?" As if they were helping me. I was like, wasn't aware that you were helping me pay off these student loans.
Right. So even people that didn't even know you from a can of paint for real
You
had
guys were
something to
full.
say.
They had something to say. And then the majority of the people, though, were like, I'm really proud of you. Because I came to realization, like, it's my one life. And life, contrary to popular belief, is usually long. And I don't want to spend all these years doing this thing I hate. And then when I finally pay them off, I'm a whole different person because I'm miserable. Like, that was my
Right.
biggest fear. I used to tell my therapist. I was like, I won't be me anymore if this takes me. I've been paying my student loans off for almost 4 years now. I've paid off $157,000 in
Oh,
three
go
and a half
girl.
years.
Yes.
I still owe 55. I'm like, I've been
Yeah. But
bamboozled
you
like
were
a shit.
way ahead of a lot of us. A lot of us are
I'm getting
ignoring.
there.
I
And my
just looked at like it's so crazy because I saw you say something about looking at the like the interest and all that. I just looked at mine like the other day and I was like,
I'm
okay,
glad
yeah.
you looked. That's
Yeah,
the
I
first
know.
step.
The first step is like
You gotta look.
admitting
Yeah.
and looking, you know?
It's
But
hard.
it is. It is. Okay.
And so I came to the realization like, hey, outside of these freaking student loans, I actually don't require a lot of money to live and to like have a good life and have fun and hang out with my friends and
Mm,
occasionally travel. Like I'm pretty savvy with some credit card points. Like
right.
my cost of living, I keep it pretty low for New York standards. And so I saved up enough money and was like, yeah, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna
Yeah.
quit. And I told myself like, hey, if this doesn't work out, Because then I went into DI and then left that. So when I left that, I was like, okay, if it doesn't work out, I had saved up all that money from when I left the law 6 months ago. I have a year of savings. If content creation does not work out in 6 months and I have to dip into these savings, I will eat my humble pie and I'll go back to corporate. And I've never touched those savings for myself.
Right. And
so
another thing is, yeah, it's like you sound like you were prepared for it. I think that we have I see these headlines all the time, or these, these clickbait about quit your job, quit your job, quit your job. You need to be prepared though when you have your ducks in a row. Don't just like fly off the wheel, starving artist vibes, and just like go for it, because you'll still be miserable. Like it's hard to be. It's either way, it's going to be hard. Yeah. So the term like recovering like means like coming back, returning to a normal state of health, mind, and strength. So for you to say like recovering lawyer, and you've mentioned the word miserable like 50 million times already. So I want to know like the details for people, because I love to get into that on here, is like really like the details of like what you were experiencing, and then in therapy, like what like I guess what themes came up, what did you learn, what are some like takeaways when it came to you just like leaving that field. And I actually have a lot of friends who are lawyers. It's still of course one of the most popular professions that people want to be in, the way that it looks, but I've heard the addiction that happens in there. I've seen the hours, like of course work hard, yes, we love it, American dream, work hard, but damn, you shouldn't like have to work drink just to like
like numb yourself through it. Yeah. Most lawyers actually have very high rates of not only unhappiness, but full on misery, statistically. And very high rates of alcoholism due to that level of misery. And that a lot of people, because for what it's worth, I think particularly like not just immigrants, but I would say like Black Americans as well, have been taught like, doctor, lawyer, something prestigious, something acceptable. And I'm like, there are a million jobs. Like a website producer, one of my best friends is a website producer. She makes 6 figures at a QCoin working for a retailer as a website producer. She's living a good life. Product manager, project manager, like there are all these things that you're not necessarily taught, but lawyer sticks out in people's mind. Most people don't actually have the personality to be that mundane lawyer in the corner. And that was it for me, which was like, okay, I'm good at negotiation. I like the negotiation because I like to chat. I want to chat. I want to talk. So if the chatting part is only an hour of my day and the other 8 hours are me redlining this agreement back and forth and arguing about commas, I don't really love that. And when I quit, my boss, who I adored, was such a lovely man, literally told me, he tried to give me more money. And then I was like, it's not about the money. I was like, thank you for that though. And I should say yes if I had good sense. I was like, I really don't want to do this anymore. And he was like, you know what? Your personality is really a waste behind the desk. And I was like, thank you. I
feel like you have a personality that you're just like, this is me, this is who I am.
Yeah, I'm me all day.
It just didn't align. It didn't feel right.
It didn't align. And it was also just, I was like, even if it's mentally interesting, at a certain point, it can't be that interesting. So I'm like, I actually want to talk about systemic issues, which I try to tie into like the lawsuits we're talking about. I want to talk about history and various things. I want to talk about how do you bring about collective change. You can't talk about that in corporate. Like, this is corporate. We're talking about coins and money. Like it's not. It doesn't lend itself to that. And I've noticed, and I always tell this to people because I get a lot of DMs from young Black women of all ages of young, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm going to go to law school. And I was like, you don't want to go. You didn't start the DM with, I've applied, this is my life dream. You started with, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I want to go, because you know that I'm going to tell you no. Because you don't actually want to go. And I think a lot of people fall into the law because they're kind of pushed by society over there. I think a lot of, and I said this before on like other podcasts, I think a lot of young Black women who are high achieving, personable, very smart, societally, not just by family and friends, but in general, like teachers, etc., like, hey, law school, with like nobody telling them like, hey, this is how much law school costs. Statistic that Black women actually have the most debt from law school, because we need extra help. Like, unfortunately, like, we don't have families that are generally paying for the tuition, so we're borrowing all this money just to then, when we do get the firm job or a job in-house, we're getting paid significantly less than our white counterparts. So you borrowed more to get paid less, and now you're like, what the hell? I don't even like this job.
And then you got to pay off your loans. Even like the return on investment for medical school, like you don't see that until you're like 60 barely. And sometimes not even. I'm not going to really be able to like see my money for real until I'm like 50, 60, if so I'm not gonna be a hot girl then. Like what?
No.
Like it's like I'm trying to be having fun. I'm trying to like live life. Like I'm not trying to wait to live my life. I want to live it now, like while I'm figuring it out. And it just didn't seem like feasible for me. Like, you know, and it just
Same.
didn't. It just seemed like a route. Yeah, like that everyone else would want. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
I always tell people, I'm like, listen, if you want to do lawyer, I think the same advice could apply to medical or any other field that requires higher education. Go intern or work in the low level job for a year between undergrad and then the graduate program and see if you like it. If I was a
Right.
paralegal for a year, I would have never became a lawyer. I would have been like, hell no. All these lawyers are miserable. Mm-mm.
Right.
They look stressed. Like, I don't
Right.
want it. My only friends that are still lawyers and happy were ones that took the gap and were paralegals for at least a year or two.
Because they know they
They
like were
knew
able
it
to
was
see what it
their
was.
choice. They loved it and they're great. One of them is a trial lawyer.
Mm,
She's excellent. Every single one of my other friends, they have quit the law or they're like, girl, here I
mhm.
am and I'll be done soon.
Mhm.
The majority of them hate it.
Mhm. So when you were in the moment, like what made you say, okay, I want to go get therapy while I'm figuring this out? What was like the camel
I'm
that broke?
laughing because it
What do they
has
say?
to do with
The
work.
line that that drove. What's the quote?
Hmm?
The line that broke the camel's back. That's the quote, I think.
Yes. It was,
Something like
or the
that. Yeah.
straw that broke the camel's
Yeah. There
back.
you go.
Yes, yes, yes,
Australia.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. What was that?
It was a boss. I had a very abusive boss
Oh.
who
Okay.
was internally, her problem was not with me. Her problem was, and she treated all of her former employees this because they would find you and be like, oh, I figured you were crying in the bathroom. I'm like, why you didn't tell me when I interviewed this lady is unwell?
Right.
Her problem was she was a very miserable lawyer and she was in her early 40s, I believe, at the time. And her career had eaten up her life. And she, like, that's all she had was that she worked super long hours and then she didn't have anything else. So she just would take it out on
Mm.
anyone next to her. And I was like, this lady is unhinged. Like,
So she, in fact, was miserable. The
she
miserable
was
that.
so miserable. And then all I kept thinking was, dang, if I had done, because I had a bunch of internships before this, I had really sweet bosses. I had gotten really lucky, which is not the norm. Two of my bosses in internships were both Black women,
Hmm.
which is like very rare when you're doing a legal
Yeah, that is.
internship.
Yeah.
And one was in tech, one was entertainment. Overwhelmingly, that's really not going to happen in reality, which I didn't realize when I got my tiny little white woman boss who was unhinged.
Yeah.
And I was unprepared for that. And then I realized, oh wait, majority of lawyers are like this because the only thing they can control is their career. But I'm like, you
Hmm.
work 60 hours a week to just be miserable.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of this? Like, you're rich,
Yeah.
objectively, but
But
when do you spend it?
what do you have to give yourself, to your family, to others, literally?
No. I caught her one time. I felt, the problem was, is that I would feel really bad for her. So then
Yeah.
I would just let her abuse me. And then I thought I could smile through it, which was dumb. You can't smile through crazy people. And one time she was in the office. It must have been like 9 p.m. It was like early night for her. And she was crying because she had an event that she wanted to
That
go
makes
to.
me sad. My
It made me
empathetic
so
ass. I'm
sad
like,
for her. And she was
damn.
like, all the men in the office left and they left this on me and I'm here doing it. And like, I had plans too. And I felt so bad for her because one, law also, if you work in entertainment and in tech, is very male dominated. So because she was that age, the times that she worked in law, it was always like, you have to prove yourself, even though she is a white woman, she wasn't a Black woman, but still white women are not paid the same as white men.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, they would do better to look
Mm-hmm.
at intersectional feminism. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
she very much was like, oh, if the men aren't doing it, I have to do it and prove myself. And I'm like, you're outworking all of them
You've been doing
and you
that.
don't get no life. Like, where is the win for you? And I should just
Right.
feel so bad for her. And then she would be crotchety. And I was like, girl, you're wearing out
Yeah.
my empathy right now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't worth it. It didn't seem worth it to me.
Mm-hmm. I see that a lot, and even not even just law, but in just a lot of careers that on the outside, when you seem like you're winning, quote unquote, but on the inside you feel like like you feel like nothing, and you're just living for another win over and over again. I even see with content creators, they're just like living for that next like accolade, and but when you really talk to them and speak with them, like there's no joy, there's no true happiness in that. And I think that people think that people who have not, I guess, stepped into, you know, their lane or their passion or success, they think that, okay, like if I make this amount of money or if I, you know, if I get this job or whatever, then I'll be able to be happy and be joyous. But like, that's just really not true because you
No.
wanted to be a lawyer your whole life.
Yeah. I've been in a
Yeah.
legal program since I was 14 years old.
Oh
I
my
went to
God, not
Magnet High School.
14.
Yeah. I'm like, I've been in a magnet high school in Miami. So I was 14 in legal program. So I was like, yeah, I'm always going to law school. Like, I'm going to be great at this. Everyone told me this is for me. And I got there and I was like, I have been bamboozled and led astray. This was a bad idea. And similarly with content creation, I try to, you know, be transparent and be like, I love 85, 90% of this, but 10%, especially like sometimes certain things that I just don't like, that there's no rhyme or reason. I'm just not good at it. Editing, for example.
Yeah.
The first couple years, I was like, I'm not a good editor. This is so hard. I have to learn Premiere Pro. Like, oh my God. I make significantly less now, but enough to float my life. Which I finally hired an editor. I'm like, thank goodness. So certainly, like, you can't like everything, but it's also like showing people like, hey, this is a real job. So my goal is to have some joy in it. If I have to spend most of my time, I want to be a little bit joyful and have fun. Because if not, what was the purpose of leaving corporate? Am I good healthcare?
Yeah, exactly. So what were some tools, because you stayed until you were able to save up, and some tools that you use, because I know some people just can't up and quit, or they can't up and just do what, you know, and especially if they work so hard to be in whatever field that they're in and they're on their way to figuring it out. What were some like tangible tools or lessons that like got you through to the other side?
So because I started the channel, I guess finance content covering my student loans, a lot of like the debt-free Gonna Be is a great one on Instagram. Mika, lovely black woman, talks about paying off debt. Bitch, I'm Budgeting, which is, yes, that's what it's called.
I love that.
Shout out to Selma. Love her page. Did like a lot of debt-free trackers or savings trackers, like where you're literally like a child coloring in, like, I saved this much this month. But it's something about the endorphin release of working towards something.
Like the visual
is super helpful. And then I have Ally Bank, it's a high yield savings account, highly recommend, where you can put buckets, and then you put like, my goal for savings is $30,000. That will float me for a whole year, so that I could see every month, like, oh, I'm getting closer, I'm 20% to the goal, 30%. That helped a lot. And then also,
so you're really like a goal oriented person in that sense. It's like,
a lawyer.
Yes, like, let me achieve this, do this.
That helped. And then something that I never really realized until I realized my best friend and I, ironically, had really good communication around money, because we racked up, when she first moved to New York, she lived with me. We racked up credit card debt, acting a plum fool together. Yeah. So then we learned to pay it off together. So when I started my, like, I started telling people I hate being a lawyer, because I refused to admit it for years. Yeah. So I finally was like, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna tell everyone I hate this. I was like, I hate this, and I'm saving up money. So then I was also paying off my student loans. I was like, hey, I'm on a budget. I can't go out all the time with you. And just being transparent was really helpful, because I stopped feeling guilty. Yeah. And that didn't happen until one time I went to a college friend's birthday party. And there were $5 in my account. I was like, I don't got no money in here.
It'd be like that. It'd be like that sometimes, yeah.
I didn't eat nothing. I sat there dead feel hungry, just like, nope. I'm not touching this. And I made up an excuse as to why I had to leave. And I was like, Stephanie, why didn't you just be honest and be like, I ain't got it? And that's because we weren't that close. So I was like, it was going to be awkward. And I was like, I should have been like, I can't go. I don't know why. But part of the reason why I went was that's when I worked in entertainment, and I only made $30,000 a year as a lawyer in entertainment.
That's a whole other bucket. Because I worked at Sony. I worked in music. Yes. And I worked at CAA. People are not getting paid. Especially in New York or LA, and like for the cost of living, it's just,
you're not getting paid.
And then it's also like just the industry itself. If you have like a certain level of like morals and like stuff, it's just a lot to it. So
it's a lot. Yeah. And my thing was, they would give us free concert tickets. So you see on Instagram, that's back when I used to use Snapchat back in the day. Oh my God, Stephanie's seeing Mariah Carey floor seats. I didn't pay for this. I'm poor.
Everyone thinks you're living the life.
So I can't say I can't go to your dinner because I don't have any money. You think that I have Mariah Carey floor seats money.
Yes. That you rubbing shoulders with Nick Cannon, and like, you literally, when really it's just, And I love that you said that earlier. You said something like once you were transparent, it let go of the guilt for you. Because I think so. I was laid off from my 9 to 5. I worked with WebMD with their mental health
Mhm.
content after leaving Sony.
Mhm.
So just complete transition, still in media, but I was laid off from there as well. And it's still, I wouldn't say it was exactly what I wanted to be doing, but I was 6 figures, the whole nine, all of that type
Mhm.
of stuff. Which still isn't that much when you're in New York either, but yeah.
Another
Yeah.
conversation.
So,
Yes.
so right now with everything happening, it's just I'm like, okay, this is a season for me to like rearrange, buckle down, save. I can't go everywhere. I can't travel. I can't do what I used to do. Yeah, I think I have not been as transparent with the people around me as I should. And like I think that would relieve a lot of the anxiety or the, the shame and guilt that I feel. And I think that there's so many other people. We're going through a crazy time right now
Yes.
in the economy that are feeling the same way. So
Mm-hmm.
so being transparent about where you are. So continue the story. So you were there. Like, did you like say something to a friend? Like what?
Oh yeah, I told all of
Mm-hmm.
them. I was like, listen, and it's too far for me. I would run and grab it, but I made
Mm-hmm.
a chart of my student loans, and every time I would pay one off, I gave myself a star. What is this? I was like, what's for to like give myself a star for it. So I told him, I said, this is how much I owe. This is how much I'm paying off. I'm just letting you know I love you dearly. You're more than welcome to come over to my very cute studio. I'm like a very good cook, and I will
Mm-hmm.
cook. Just bring some wine, and we'll have a good time. I'm not opposed to
Yeah.
going to us hang. Like I want to hang out. I want to do all those things, but like I cannot go out every weekend with you, spending mindless money on for what it's worth. The food in New York is hit and miss. On hit and miss food,
It's not good. The
it's
food is
not
not
good.
good.
Thank you. I'm glad you.
It's not good. I'm from the South, so
Thank you.
yeah.
The food is not fresh and it's not good on a regular basis. I tried a restaurant. When was this? Saturday with one of my
Yeah.
girlfriends randomly. This is the first
Mm-hmm.
time in years that this has worked. It's called Seawolf. Shout out to them in
Oh,
Bushwick.
I've been to Seawolf.
It's good. Oh,
Seawolf, that shrimp is
that's what we
delicious.
got. We got shrimp. I got some oyster. I was like, I told her, I was like, Chelsea girl, I was like, I am so glad we stumbled in here and this is actually good because this
Mm-hmm.
hasn't happened to me in years. You stumble in,
Shout out
usually
to
you're like,
Seawolf.
shout out to
And they have
Seawolf.
great drinks. Like during the pandemic, they would always,
Yes.
how like they were one of the places that were open and would have, like
Mm,
outdoor stuff or whatever. So that's when I started to eat there. The shrimp is
so
delicious,
good. The
especially
shrimp
being
is
from
delicious.
Texas and just knowing some good seafood. It's like,
Yes. I lived in New Orleans for a bit, so I'm like, y'all don't be
oh,
seasoning
you
your
know
shrimp up
food.
here. So good. I'm like, I want some Creole and some Cajun. Like, what is
Yeah.
this?
If you were in New Orleans, that's like the best. I think New
The
Orleans is
best.
even better than like Texas to me and
I love
Houston
it.
when it comes to
It's my
food.
favorite. My favorite
Yeah.
American style of food is so good.
Yeah.
So with that, I was like, I can't be spending money on this. And then I
Hmm.
realized in saying that, then other people are like, you know what, girl, I gotta pay off my credit card debt too. Thank you.
No, for
It
real. That's
frees
how it
other people
is.
to say their truth
That
too.
is so true. I think I'm just so used to this is me even being transparent on here. I'm so used to like my parents, not to say that that we were super wealthy or anything like that, but
Mhm.
like I had someone to like lean back on. Like they
Yeah.
would never let me drown ever. But just knowing that can kind of like mess you up in the sense of like you just not being real about like
Mm-hmm.
what's in your bank account right now. Let's be real and true and honest about it and like what I want to do, what I want for my future family and for me, like not what my parents have. So that's something that's been like on my heart. I'm thinking about so much. Okay, like, and I'm like, I don't want to rush into another job that I don't like or that I'm
Mm-hmm.
miserable about. It's really about like the sacrifice and like you I think you said in another video like you took a pay cut, like
Yeah.
you've done that. Like tell us about like that 'cause I feel like people are always like to move forward is just to move forward financially, but you moved forward with your joy, I'm sure, but took a
Oh,
pay
so much
cut in
happier.
that sense. Yeah.
For sure. So when I left the law in, God, what year are we in? 2021? Yes, December 2021, I made
Mhm.
165. So when I got the DEI job, I made 135 base, 20K bonus, but I'm a cynical lawyer, so I'm like, a bonus is not guaranteed money. So I make
Yeah.
135. And I was like, okay, so this is a drop. It's not a huge drop. But really, when I got the DEI job, I was like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to do content creation full time. And it was because I was afraid to do content creation full time, I took that job. I never applied for that
Mm.
job. My friend referred me and was like, you'd be good at this. And I was
This
like,
is
damn,
this is a
friend,
job in tech after you left
in tech,
doing
and I
law.
had been in,
Okay.
and I was in tech before, in law as well, but as DEI in tech. So that
Right.
didn't work out. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I have this huge savings 6 months later. I want to be I'm going to do content creation. If it doesn't work out and if I can't support myself, I will happily go back to lawyerdom. I won't be happy,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll go back. At least I'll say I've gotten to try.
Right.
And so in my first year of full-time content creation, this number, I'm very big on salary transparency, and I put it online. So this might not be exactly correct because I can't remember off the top of my head. I think my first year of content creation, I made $94,000.
Oh, that's
That's
good.
good, right? But
That's
it's not
yeah,
165.
other people's first years of anything is gonna be probably not that much. Yeah.
It's not. It's less, you know. And so I was transparent
We're
about that. I was
breaking
like,
up
"Hey, I've been
again
paying my."
a little bit.
Oh, is it good now?
Okay, yeah, we're back. We're back.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Other people's
And
first years of anything is not 90,000.
exactly. So I was like,
Yeah.
"That's pretty good." Like, I'm not upset
Yeah.
about it. My thing was, I had been making when I was in corporate $5,000-$6,000 student loan payments. So with 94, I was like cautious. I was like, well, I need to eat, and the taxes are higher when you are a solopreneur. That was interesting to
Mm-hmm.
me. So I started making
Mm-hmm.
like $500 payments. I've finally in the past 3 months have gotten back to $2,000 payments towards my student
Mm-hmm.
loans. So I'm like, okay, the student loan journey is going to take longer, but I'm so much happier.
Mm-hmm.
And I have so much less stress and less anxiety. Content creation has its own stress and anxiety. It's
Yeah.
not the same as being in a corporate space or being in any workspace where you are intrinsically, you wake up and you're like, oh, F this whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm
That
so
existential
unmotivated.
dread when you wake up in the morning,
Exactly.
like a will. I have to find a will to live right now. Like,
Exactly. I don't have that. My dread is more like, is the algorithm going to be nice to me today? Like,
yeah.
ugh. But okay, if not, like, I will breathe because again, that cushion is still there. I haven't touched it, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's giving me calmness.
And you also have like a more tough skin, like from working in law. I think there are a lot of content creators that just came out of the gate through high school, like they just came out just creating. Like they don't have that tough skin. Like you were
I
the
feel for
only
them.
Black woman in a lot of rooms. Like so you had to
Hmm.
go through other things that probably help you to be built for this life. I do wonder, like, do you ever get discouraged by this now like shorter form of quick content when people are like
Yes.
reading and how they literally get millions of views, like just saying like some really quick shit after you just dissected this whole
Yes. Yes.
contract. Like how are you dealing with that? Because I got discouraged as well, just seeing it all, and it kind of like made me get like stagnant and stuck. And this is me, even me just doing this interview with you right now is me pushing through and pushing forward.
No, you're
So
doing
yeah,
great. This
thank
is
you,
great.
thank you.
You're great. I was gonna say you're a great interviewer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Ah, that means the most. But
excellent
yeah, like,
interviewer.
how have you been dealing with the uproar of like all these goddamn
Yeah.
content creators? Like, damn, love it for
Honestly,
you, but yeah.
I don't like TikTok. My hot take about TikTok, it's making people a little bit slow in the mind. That is my
Mm,
hot take. In that, like,
mm-hmm.
you can't be digesting, you cannot know everything about a lawsuit in 1 minute. It's physically impossible. Like, it's also erasing nuance. However, I do see like it can be helpful for certain things. Like I see people do series, etc. The other half of that, if I'm being fully transparent, is I'm not good at it either. I was like, okay, let me try this. I would say I'm succinct if you give me 5 minutes. Sure, I could do 5 minutes. A minute? I'm not good at it, to be transparent, and I feel like people always say YouTube is the hardest platform to conquer. So then the assumption is like, oh, if like I'm doing pretty well on YouTube, it's my first platform. I've grown it to 57,000 subscribers. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Yes.
And you know, I'm lit. My bills are paid and I'm all right.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I figure out something that's supposed to be easier? And I've had to accept like, oh, being good at short form is a skill in itself. And I don't necessarily have that skill.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with me. I'm like, I just don't. And I also don't really enjoy it. Every once in a while, I'll post a little hot take on an Instagram reel. And I'm like, here you go. But I don't enjoy it because then people are like, what do you mean by that? Blah, blah. And I'm like, see, if I had 3 minutes, wouldn't be
You'd
an
be able to
argument.
understand what I'm saying. And it's like then they start attacking you for the little small bit that you said when their answer is probably in your long form on Patreon or on YouTube. But they don't
That's
have the
exactly what
attention
happened.
span. They don't have the attention span to sit there and listen. They want that answer in 60 seconds.
I got into an argument with a troll this morning. And I have a no troll arguing policy. But I was like, first of all, I responded to your stupid comment with kindness the first time. Then you woke up and chose full on stupidity with me. So now I have to clap you down.
Right.
Now I got to come out of my face at you. Over a minute a minute reel in which I'm trying to explain like what the word extremist means and why it's inappropriate to call brown children potential extremists. There's nothing extreme about wanting to live on the land that you have lived on for generations. That's
Right.
actually very normal.
That yeah, and like what can someone even have to say back? They just
Just arguing about silliness, and I'm like, this is why I don't like short form. It causes, because it's good for the algorithm. The algorithm is
yeah,
good
that's
with
what they
rage.
like that back and forth. And
Yeah, I
like
don't
you know,
like
that
it.
is so true. They don't even get to get the wholeness of someone, which is like
No.
what my content like is was always about, is like showing the wholeness of creators like you. It's like I want people to see like all of you, more of you, because I feel like creators go through so much judgment and ridicule that it's just not fair, like at all.
Crazy.
And it doesn't allow it to do that. And I've seen some of my favorite TikTokers literally go from like being super popping or whatever and just getting depressed and not even able to create content. I think Monet McMichael is going to do something right now. She's like not even able to create. She came out and said
Oh.
that because it's like she's getting attacked so much just for these little snippets, and she doesn't even speak on anything that's worth that. It's
Aw.
just like about her life, you know. So yeah,
It
but
creates a
that's
lot of
that's what it is.
anxiety.
I think yeah, and I think that it's crazy. Like it just all clicked. It's like the algorithm loves it. The companies are eating it up.
It's engagement
The
because
outrage,
now
like that outrage, like they're
we're
feeding off of it. They're making money off of it. Meanwhile,
mhm,
people are like literally like in shambles because of
in
it, which is just
shambles.
crazy.
Because then it's also, I always say, as somebody who does long form commentary, we're talking 20 to an hour long videos, generally
Yeah.
speaking. My goal is for people to walk away. You don't have to agree. I'm fine with dissent. Dissent is not my issue. My issue is when people are committed to foolishness and rude. I
Mhm.
want people to walk away with, like, hey, I learned something. I heard her whole point of view. I may not necessarily agree with the point of view for whatever reason. Maybe you don't want everyone in the world to, have an equitable life. But but you get the whole point. I can't I can't impart that in 1 minute. No matter
Mhm.
the kindness of the tone, the smile, like that's not possible. So
Yeah.
one of the things I've gotten advice from, which YouTube says this on, which YouTube execs are like, it's good for you. I know like people who are senior creators, as in creators that have been on the platforms for so long, like they're making a very cute coin. They're like, Stephanie, you should love the rage. Cut your commentary stuff up. The rage is good. And I'm like, I don't want to raise people's blood pressure though. Even if I disagree with them, I'm
Yeah.
diametrically opposed. I still don't want to raise their blood pressure. That's
And
not ever my
that's
goal.
really honorable because people are just on here just for the wrong reasons. Like it shows like what you're really doing this to educate people. And like from what I see, like your content is very much so factual. Like you're not even
Yes.
you are opinionated in your own way, but it's not like in a way to just like get under people's skin. Like you're just really speaking
No.
true facts that
With citations.
yeah, like
A girl got citations.
you have it all to the research to back it up too. So it's kind of like how can you disagree with that?
Which some people are committed to nonsense. And so for those people, I'm like, okay, this is not for you, really. I'm not trying to combat you. But for the people who genuinely, our education system is almost completely defunded. I'm like, education should be free. And so I try to use my platform as an extension of education that should be
Mm,
free, available, and easily digestible. Like
mm-hmm.
not everybody, as somebody with, I guess if you're a lawyer, you have a JD, it's an academic background. Not everybody wants to hear highbrow academia, understandably.
Right.
Even myself, sometimes I'm like, why do you like? Hold on, let me pull up the thesaurus and the dictionary while you simultaneously do this
Yeah.
because what
Yeah.
did you say? What does that mean?
But you said the American dream that was sold to our immigrant parents was not real.
Oh,
Um,
and
which
telling that to them, they don't like when you tell that to them.
yeah, not at all. And I think that like they're realizing that. Like I think that my dad literally is now realizing, and he didn't know much about finances, credit, like they didn't know any of that type of stuff. And it's like I came here, I went to school, I did what I was supposed to do. Now you're telling me that I can't get this house because of this credit. It's like so many other nuances to this American dream that they speak of. I think that one thing that I want to do in my life, try my best to give them what they thought that was or what it looked like.
Mhm.
What do you mean by that? And like expound, talk about your parents more. Because another thing that for this new season of the pod, I'm getting more into talking about like the experience of a child of an immigrant and
Oh
of
yeah.
immigrants and like working in media and just creatives. It's like a whole another nuance to that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Expound on
I would say particularly for Black immigrants, the American dream is very much sold as labor at all costs. So like there is that running stereotype that Jamaicans love labor, that we always have 3 jobs, which
You
is
do, but
true.
you have 3 jobs.
I do. I'm living up to it.
Yeah.
I hate that for me. Um, and it's very true. However, what my dad was quick to realize, and I'm very glad he instilled this in me, is a sense of Pan-Africanism. And once you realize and you actually have a real sense of Pan-Africanism, you realize Black American people have been saying for the longest time, that American dream foolishness is for white cis het men. It is never going to be for you. So get that out of your mind, A. And then B, even the few immigrants it benefits, they just use you as token PR. There's always like, hey, look, so-and-so made it, so why didn't you do it? Why you didn't pick yourself up faster? And the American dream is run by running people into the ground. And having seen my dad work 60 hours a week my whole life, and then now watching the system that is the US basically throw him away, and me trying to figure out like, oh my God, he got into a trucking accident because he's a truck driver. Like, okay, you've worked with this company X amount of years, you've done X amount of things, to find out that unfortunately he has late stage renal disease, so he needs a new kidney. So when we went in for that, he was in shock. I was in shock. I was like, wait, we're just in an accident. I'm so glad everything is together. Like, what do we mean is wrong with his kidney? What are you talking about? For them to be like, oh yeah, this is a side effect of being a truck driver for 20 years. I was like, a side effect? Did y'all tell the truck drivers this?
Right. Whenever they were in their training, when you was telling them everything, like,
No, we, you know, but yeah, a lot of our patients, high amounts, truck drivers. And I was like,
yeah.
what? And
It's
it's
kind of
this.
like it's like putting them. Sorry, I talk while
Oh, no, you're fine.
Like, yeah, it's like they're putting this American dream on them to sell them something, to just continue to have their machine to keep working, to have people in that. Yeah.
And if one of you out of 1,000 of you makes it, good for you. But the other 999 of you, sorry to you. And actually not sorry to you, because this is how our society runs. And realizing that helped me let go of being a lawyer. Because I thought like, okay, eventually I'll earn these people's respect. Eventually they'll stop asking if I'm the secretary. And I was like, no, you're not going to eventually get sense into your head, actually. And I'm going to live my life the way I want to live my life and air y'all out while I do so.
If we do get out of, get out the hood, or, if we do that, it's just like, we're an example just to help someone to keep striving, but it's still just the same hamster wheel effect.
Instead of addressing the root cause, which is the systemic issues put in place in the US. And I'm like, addressing the root cause would help everybody, Black, brown, Asian, white alike.
The awareness of it can just mentally free a lot of people as well. But that's hard, because it's like you'll still have people around you who still aren't as mentally free, but you gotta just keep it.
Yeah, I've gotten into a few of those conversations accidentally.
Yeah, but oh my God. Okay, last question. I think this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I always end with what brings you peace of mind. It could be literally like a song. It could be something. You can go wherever you want with it, but like, what has been bringing you peace of mind? What brings you peace of mind? You can take the question wherever you want to take it.
Ooh, what brings me peace of mind? My niece brings me so much peace of mind. Oh. She's such an adorable little person. She just turned 4. She's just so funny. And she's also like a mini version of me, which is startling and surprising in a 4-year-old. She'd just be saying anything. I'm like, oh, confident, okay.
Just like, yeah.
And I'm like, what did you say? Like, or don't tell your dad that. She brings me a lot of peace of mind. And I would say when I'm feeling like really stressed, because all of the platforms have gone through a lot of changes since the introduction of TikTok, to be honest, including YouTube, just stressed me out. What brings me a lot of peace of mind is realizing how far I've come, which is my goal is to do this not fast, but for a long time. So am I building this sustainably? Am I keeping true to my mission of being helpful and bringing a little education with a little laughs and a little sass and humor? Yes. And so seeing how far I've come gives me a lot of peace of mind of like, you know what? I made the right decision. Any day, every day, the worst day of content creation for me, because I'm in my purpose, is better than the best day of corporate for me, which was getting free food and being on a private island.
Right.
This for me, I'm like, oh, because I get to be myself.
Your paradise, like
that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it rains, and that's all right.
But at least you chose it. Like you chose it
Exactly.
intentionally. Like life is not happening to you at all. Like you are literally
Oh, so
walking
glad
your
you
own.
said that. That's
Yes, and I
exactly what
love that.
you put into words perfectly. I do not want life to happen to me.
Right.
And unfortunately, because there's so many systemic issues, things will happen to you. But it feels nice to be able to be like, hey, against all the odds, I chose this for myself.
I've been using this vitamin. It's called ashwagandha. I've been using it off and on for years.
Mm.
It's really good for like stress and anxiety. As you guys know that have been listening, I'm traveling to Kenya soon. If you have immigrant parents and you know anything about traveling with them and just doing anything with computers, they have to get their visas. It's pretty stressful to like, love them, but it can be kind of stressful. So ashwagandha has been being a really great vitamin, just to, like calm me out and have me like not giving a fuck that much. I'm just like, I'm
Mm.
really calm, really chill. So I'm gonna put a link in my description for you guys to get any if you guys want some, if you guys are stressed, especially for the holidays. So yes, let the people know where to find you. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm so glad I
Hey,
randomly
Penny.
met you at that random event.
Me too.
Yes, and I wish you literally the best. Like this inspired me to keep going, and I'm sure it's going to inspire others to keep going. And I love just like getting to know you more as well. So
Me
let the people
too.
know where they can find you, and if you have anything coming up, and then
Yeah,
yeah.
sounds good. When you get back, we'll have to go to Seawolf.
Oh my God, yeah. Literally,
Boom.
there's one like in Bushwick, and then there's like another one. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
we'll
when
do
I
that.
went to the Bushwick one.
Yeah.
So y'all can find me on all socials at Wine N Chill. So N as in Nancy. I don't know a more fun N name. And yeah, so I'm primarily on YouTube and then on Instagram. I'll be in the stories causing a little
Hmm.
commotion. But primarily on YouTube and then on Patreon as well. So if you have
Yes.
any extra holiday cheer and you want to support an independent content creator, I'm over
Mm,
there. Appreciate it.
love Patreon. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your week.